Hey folks, it's Ardwulf. Welcome. We are back from Origins 2019, and we have a lot to talk about. So I had a great time at the show, as usual. Next year, I think I want to do more stuff that involves me actually being involved in games rather than taking pictures of other people's games. We took a lot of pictures, a lot of which showed up on Twitter. I put a couple on Facebook too, and I don't think I posted anything to Instagram. So check out the Twitter feed. It is in the video description. There's a link to it down there, so check that out. Played a couple of things. Didn't play as much as I wanted, and in fact, I'm stumped to come up with something I played that wasn't GMT's Cataclysm, which I played twice, or I should say we tried to play twice. I'll have some thoughts about that. Otherwise, we hung around a lot with the Armchair Dragoons folks. The press pass deal this year was a bit of a pain in the butt, and that the folks at the boardroom kind of had to escalate that issue to Gamma, and I guess I probably could have just bullied my way in. But I didn't want to cause a fuss, and I wanted the status to be somewhat official. So I think next year I'm just going to buy the boardroom ribbon again, and not play anything in the boardroom as I didn't this year. I did see some very interesting war games on the table in the boardroom. There were some guys who were pounding ASL all basically the entire time. There was a game of the Napoleonic Wars. There was an SPI copy of Freedom in the Galaxy on the table, which I was delighted to see. It's a game I have very fond memories of. This is all in the boardroom. Also saw Commands and Colors Medieval in the boardroom. That's brand new. Twilight Struggle, of course. There was a game, although I didn't manage to see it, of U.S. Civil War. There's usually actually two games of that at Origins. This is mostly GMT stuff, but not exclusively, obviously, if we're talking SPI here. So, also a game of War at Sea, if I didn't mention it. The L2 version of War at Sea at that. So a little bit unusual version of that game. So the convention is 5 days. I was there all 5 days, and I was feeling fairly deflated by Saturday about midday. Nevertheless, it was really great to see, for example, Katie from Katie's Game Corner, who I ran into more or less at random in the exhibit hall, I think on Thursday. Ran into and got to hang out with for an unfortunately too short amount of time. Grant and Alexander from the Player's Aid. If you're somehow subscribed to me but not subscribed to them, I will put a link to their channel in the video description. I bought a lot of stuff. Most of the stuff I bought, of course, bought some dice. Actually bought 2 T-shirts, which is very unusual for me. I almost never like the T-shirts that they have at Origins because I'm super picky about T-shirts, which is weird because I've got a ton of T-shirts. I saw somebody wearing a Jethro Tull T-shirt, a T-shirt that I once owned, and I'm not 100% sure that I have seen anyone wearing a Jethro Tull T-shirt since leaving the Jethro Tull concert in whatever year that was. I'm not sure when that would have been, probably mid-90s, I would think, early 90s probably. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Jethro Tull. But Armchair Dragoons ran the Wargamers area in the game hall, or Hall C in this case. There's really 2 big game halls separated by the exhibit hall. And even though there's a different name on the booth, it's pretty much all the same folks hanging around there. They ran some command post exercises. Now, I hasten to add, whether you're a wargamer or not, it is worth your time to participate in the command post exercise, because it is an actual command exercise like they run at the Army War College, run by the guy who runs command exercises for the Army War College. It is less a game that you play than it is an experience that you have. It is totally worth your time. Maybe it's not something you decide that you're going to go back and do year after year after year, although there are people that do that. The same deal with the Kriegspiel. Now, this is not the Avalon Hill Kriegspiel. This is modeled after the actual 1824 Baron von Reiswitz Kriegspiel, although it's not quite that. I mean, they dumb it down for the non-professional audience, but it's that kind of thing. And again, it's very much worth your time. Draws a lot of eyes from passersby at the convention floor. Also running in that area was a multiple big games of A Distant Plane, the coin A Distant Plane. Now these are run as team games with 2 players per side, so they're 8-player games. I've participated in those in the past, and those are always great fun. Lot of Commands and Colors Medieval. We had some table battles from Hollandspiel on the table at some point, although I'm not sure that that was an official event. They also had For What Remains, which I kept misreading as For Wheat Remains. So I think that was also not an official event. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of wargaming adjacent stuff that what I would call wargaming adjacent. There was a huge Memoir 44 game in the boardroom, actually. There was a lot of Axis and Allies, which is not weird for Origins in any way. From the weird ones like the Guadalcanal game, which is not really about Guadalcanal, all the way up to the big global war thing. That was neat. It's always neat to see that. Somebody and Grant and Alexander on the Players Aid actually mentioned what rule system these guys are using, and I didn't catch that because I don't do miniatures at all. There was a huge and very visually impressive miniatures game of the invasion at Tarawa. I did get some pictures of that. There's at least one picture of that on my Twitter feed, so check that out. I bought a lot of stuff. Bought more than I probably should have. I tend to plan these things out well in advance, and I know exactly what booths I'm going to and how much the stuff costs. And some of those plans did not come to fruition for various reasons. Chaosium, for example, happened to be discounting the 2 things I was going to buy from them. So instead of buying 2 things, I bought like 5 things. Call of Cthulhu and RuneQuest for the curious. I had planned on buying 2 things from Cubicle 2. I can never remember the name of these guys because it's not Cubicle 2. It's the whoever does the North American distribution for Mongoose. I planned on buying 2 Traveler items from them, and I did. I had heard and hoped that Victory Point Games would be there with copies of Twilight in the East. That turned out not to be the case. They came with Dawn of the Zeds, and that's it. I hope it did well for them, but that's not something I'm interested in. Decision Games did not have some of the stuff that I had gone there intending to buy. I knew they were not going to have Lucky Forward, and I asked about it, of course, and of course Lucky Forward was just not ready, which is fine. I would rather them take extra time to get that right, especially the rule book, the system, the Gauss system rule book. That's cool. I'm cool with that. They also didn't have, and I expected them to have Desert Fox Deluxe and the new boxed edition of that, so I guess I'll buy it from them next year, assuming they still have it. Maybe I'll get it through somebody else. Who knows? I did end up, if you saw the pictures that I posted on Twitter, I did end up buying the entire Der Weltkrieg series, which is the big... It's not actually developed by Decision, but it's sold by them. I'm not sure I would if I characterize that as a distribution agreement. I'm not sure that would be accurate. Because I don't know to what extent they're involved, but I know they don't do the development. That's a very interesting World War I system. Now, I owned one of the games in the past, and I was pretty impressed by it. Ended up trading it away. Not 100% sure why I did that, because I liked it. I said, I'd like to play this. There's actually a fairly decent chance that system, not the whole thing, because this table does not have the space, but a good chunk of it might get to the table at some point in the not amazingly distant future. So we'll see how that works. That could theoretically even happen at Buckeye Game Fest in September. We'll have to discuss that on Wednesday with those guys. But I bought the whole thing, East Front, West Front, Med Front, and Italian Front, plus the Grand Campaign. It is ludicrously huge if you set the entire thing up, and you really have to split it into multiple tables, but that's not very hard to do. And it's very playable. My anticipation with that game system was that it was going to be super detailed and fiddly, and it's not, actually. I haven't really looked at the campaign rules yet, so we'll see. But it's not fiddly at all, particularly. So I'm looking forward to digging into that. That's going to take a while to punch and clip. I picked up Gandhi, which showed up at the show on Friday at Enterprise Games. Mark Herman's new edition of the Peloponnesian War, both from GMT, also showed up at Enterprise Games on Friday. I did not pick up Peloponnesian War, and I kind of regret it. Nevertheless, it will just have to wait because I've spent enough money at this point. Last minute purchases include Commands and Colors Ancients and one of the expansions for Commands and Colors Ancients, dealing with the Romans. I picked these up actually because I have an intention of doing some kind of content with them in the future, maybe for the YouTube channel, maybe for a convention. We'll see how that actually develops. I hope the microphone is not total shit, by the way, because it's been drooping the entire time. Anyway, bought a lot of stuff. I'm at the point where some of the stuff, the RPG stuff that I picked up, has actually been shelved, and the wargame stuff has not, because I have to make room up here for that stuff. My selection of GMT games did increase. Picked up Devil's Horseman for the Great Battles of History series. I looked at that. That was kind of one of those things where it's like, I'm only going to buy the Roman stuff for Great Battles of History. And then I said, I'm only going to buy the Greek and Roman stuff for Great Battles of History. And then I said, I'm only going to buy the ancient stuff for Great Battles of History. And where I am right now is I'm not going to buy Lion of the North, should I see it. It's out of print. It's not going to be reprinted. And that particular iteration of GBOH has kind of been superseded by the Musket and Pike series, which I am on the calendar to pick up. So hopefully I'll be able to get some of this stuff to the table. Definitely the coin stuff. Pretty sure the SPW stuff is going to hit at some point, possibly not immediately. The GBOH stuff will hit the table at some point. We've got local guys who like GBOH, so we're good for that. And the Commands and Colors stuff, I could go up to the club on any weekend and play that. So that's enough about the loot. I am unaware of, although there's nothing to say I didn't miss it, I am unaware of any major drama that occurred at Origins 2019. There were some hiccups with the registration. I know some people had problems. They had some problems with the badge printers here and there. I am not aware of any other major problems. I don't know what the attendance numbers are. I don't know if they've announced it. I haven't seen it. But I can tell you anecdotally that the business that the con was doing on Wednesday definitely appeared to be significantly up from the business that the con normally does on Wednesday. And Thursday was probably busier than usual as well. Friday and Saturday seemed to me to be about where it usually is, which is to say it was super busy. Not Gen Con busy. I mean, it's busy, right? A lot of people don't like just the press of people at Gen Con because there's like 50,000 or whatever it is people there. It's a crazy number of people. Origins does not pack that many people into the same amount of space at any particular time. A lot of people think that it feels like a smaller convention than it is, and I think a lot of those people are probably doing RPGs at Origins, because the RPG stuff largely, but not exclusively, is done at the Hyatt and not in the convention center. So maybe they spin down to the dealer's room, spend an hour or two there, spin back up to the Hyatt, where things are definitely more laid back. And there's a lot of appeal in doing RPG stuff at Origins because of that, actually, because it's in its own area. It's not in that huge, cacophonously noisy exhibit hall. So right next to the Wargamers area, by the way, was, I don't know what it even was, there was what I take to be a card game, a pro wrestling card game, and those guys were thematically appropriately for a pro wrestling game. Those guys were off the hook. With the shouting and the bells and I guess they actually crushed a table at one point. Don't know if that was on purpose or not. I imagine it wasn't. But and they actually, a lot of the tables, I don't know about all the tables, but it seems like the tables used in the gaming halls this year were completely rebuilt tables from what they had previously, because those old tables were pretty shabby. And these seemed like at least mostly or all new tables. Plus, they had fancy table covers in the boardroom. It was dressed up a little bit from where it typically is. So I may do some more Origins wrap videos on specific things, like my thoughts on Cataclysm, for example, which I don't believe I want to actually put in this video. They were mixed, I'll tell you that. I may do some more stuff. There won't be any unboxings. It's all already out of the shrink wrap, all of it. I don't keep stuff in the shrink wrap. I bought 3 magazine games, by the way, which is also fairly unusual. I picked up Harold Buchanan's Campaigns of 1777 from the last couple issues of S&T. I picked up The Dragon Engulfed the Sun from Modern War, which is a near-future hypothetical conflict between China and Japan. And because I saw it and then I remembered what it was, I picked up a game called Armies of the White Sun, I believe, which is about the Second Sino-Japanese War, which is a dramatically underexplored topic in wargaming. There's literally 3 or maybe 4 games on this subject. This is the part of World War II that occurred in China. And I'm looking forward to taking a look at that. And if nothing else, the magazine, and I picked up an issue or 2 of the magazine too. Decision had this crazy deal whereby if you buy an issue of any of their 3 magazines, maybe even there's 4 magazines, maybe even S&T Quarterly qualified, doesn't have to be the one with the game that costs $30 or $40. Any of their magazines, you got a 5-issue subscription to any one of the magazines that you wanted. Without the game, of course, which, hey, that's fine. And so that's like a bananas deal. Even if you don't like the games necessarily, and bluntly, the magazine games, all magazine war games, frankly, have always been hit and miss. Some magazines have a little better track record than others. Nobody is squeaky clean with this stuff. Magazine games have always been hit and miss, even back to the S&T days under SPI. If you remember, not all those games are classics. Some of them are, in fact, turds. So I don't know how these ones will pan out. We'll see. I only pick up the ones that specifically interest me. So I'm looking forward to taking a look at the 3 that I bought. Particularly Campaigns of 1777, which has a very good reputation, especially considering magazine game. Geez, what do you expect? You're lucky if you get to play it. So my big highlight of the show was probably I ran into the guys at the Players Aid. They actually texted me or DM'd me on Twitter, and I didn't get that until like hours later after I had already run into them. So I ran into them again at the Armchair Dragoons area, the Wargamers area, and then we actually sat down at something like 5 or 6 o'clock and played an entire turn, so a year, of Cataclysm. I'll have some more specific thoughts about that, but I would like to specifically thank Grant and Alexander for sitting down and playing with us scrubs for an hour. They were both more familiar with the game than we were, even though they've already talked about it in their Origins Wrap video, and I guess they were a little rusty as well, which is fine because nobody beat anybody. They already mentioned that that France won the game, so I'll let them tell you the story. Check that out. Again, I'll put a link in the show notes. I would like to specifically shout out to the places I bought stuff from. Where did I buy stuff from? Chaosium. I'll put links to this stuff in the notes. For RPG stuff, Chaosium and whoever those guys are. And for war games, primarily Decision and Enterprise Games, who was there, if you haven't heard me mention it before, was there specifically representing GMT. Those guys are great guys. I got some good answers from Doc at Decision about what the status of Lucky Forward was, which is one of my most anticipated games of 2019, and it's still on the table for this year. It's just didn't make Origins and probably won't make Gen Con. And might not make WBC, but Desert Fox Deluxe Boxed Edition might make WBC. So if you're going to WBC, and I might, money and time and all that permitting, spin out there for like a Saturday. We'll see. Everything's kind of got to fall into perfect place for that to actually occur. Next convention for me is Buckeye Game Fest. It is Labor Day week, not the weekend with the Monday. It starts on Labor Day Monday. So that is in September. We will be spending an entire week there. I will have some video of some form from Buckeye Game Fest, and obviously there'll be stuff between then and now. There's a lot of time there, and I've got a number of things that I would like to get done. After that, looks like it's going to be Compass Con. I have agreed to go to Compass Con, Compass Games Expo. I keep calling it Compass Con because that's what the guy I'm driving with calls it. It's Compass Games Expo. It's Compass Games' official show. It's run by John Krantz, who also runs Consim World Expo in Tempe, Arizona, except that this isn't in Tempe, Arizona. We don't have to fly there. The hotel is like a third the price, or half of a third the price. It's vastly cheaper. than the very pricey hotel that Console World Expo is held in. So I'm really looking forward to that. I have no idea what I'm going to do there, but I will tell you this, I am going there to play stuff. I am not going there to be press. That doesn't mean there won't be pictures and video and that kind of stuff, and certainly after action type video, but I'm not going there just to walk around and take pictures of stuff other people are having fun doing. I'm going there to play. Same thing with Buckeye Game Fest. I'm going to be there playing something, and I don't know what it'll be yet, but it'll be something large. So, anybody that's put up with this for 20 minutes now, I really appreciate it. Please punch that subscribe button, hit like if you've enjoyed the video, and there will be more content coming soon. If anybody has any questions or anything like that, please stick them in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer them expeditiously. This is Ardwulf signing off. I will see everybody soon.